We love sharing these stories with you through the Hiking Through Life podcast, and we're so grateful that you listen to this podcast. If you'd like to support the Hiking Through Life podcast further, we have these amazing new t-shirts and water bottles. The t-shirts come in 4 colors, and the water bottles are perfect for trails, adventuring, or daily use. Consider checking them out at hikingthroughlife.net/shop.
Use the code PODCAST and receive 10% off your first order. This is the Hiking Through Life podcast. We've all been gifted a journey called life. Let's see where the journey leads us today. Welcome to the Hiking Through Life podcast. I'm Andy.
And I'm Sarah.
And today's journey, we meet up with EcoElsa. We really enjoyed getting to meet EcoElsa and interview her at a local park.
EcoElsa is a naturalist local to Minnesota who has over 4 years of experience working in environmental education. She has a passion to provide free resources for teaching outdoors through her videos on YouTube, through blog posts, and different social media sites. EcoElsa was a really inspiring person to meet, and the crazy thing was, as I was thinking about it, is I was connected with her through the internet, and the internet is such a blessing yet also a curse because you can spend so much time on it, but it can connect you to amazing people, and she was one of my suggested people that I might like, so I clicked on her, and sure enough, I liked her, so I got connected with her. I highly encourage that you check her out and are inspired to get in touch with her or attend one of her free hike Fridays. So I hope that you enjoy our interview with EcoElsa. Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning into our podcast today. We are super excited to be here with EcoElsa today. I found her through social media, and the one thing that totally attracted me to her page was the fact that she had a post about Last Child in the Woods by Richard Love, and I so love that book. As a preschool teacher, as an educator, as an outdoor enthusiast, I have this deep love for that book. So when I saw that on EcoElsa's page, I was like, this girl's right up my alley. So thank you for coming to the podcast today, EcoElsa.
Yeah, totally.
So why don't you just give us a little bit about your background and what you do with children and families outdoors?
Yeah. So my name is Elsa Latecki. I've lived and worked in Minnesota in the Midwest for about going on 5 years in this field. It will be 5 years, I think, this coming spring of officially out of college working. My background is I always knew I wanted to work outdoors. I loved being outside. I couldn't stand being crammed in a room for hours on end having to sit. So I knew I was going to go outdoors. And when I got to college, I thought, I'm going to be a hermit. I'm going to be Jane Goodall. I'm going to go up and do research on moose and wolves and stuff in the north. And the more and more I worked in the field, the more and more I realized I liked people, surprisingly. I liked working with them. And I realized I really liked leading hikes. My favorite memories from college were probably going out with friends and showing them this plant or this bird or that thing. And really, I liked it. And I realized then that there was a job for that. And I started working in this field, and then I realized that there were other areas that I really liked enjoying. I had a part-time job once at a STEM school as their on-site naturalist. And what I did there is I helped the teachers take their curriculum and get them outdoors. So they could,
and for people who don't know what STEM is, can you explain what STEM is?
Yeah. So that is science, technology, engineering, and math. It's kind of this new big field area since our society is developing more of a way to be computers and engineering and problem solving. They also sometimes call it STEAM now, and they're throwing the arts back in because a lot of schools have been cutting funding to the arts. So I realized that I really loved these areas, and I really enjoyed helping the teachers meet their standards outdoors so they could actually get the kids outside. And so the last 2 years, I've been kind of running my own YouTube videos, blog posts, and now it's a business where I'm actually working with different schools around the Twin Cities of Minnesota and other groups like homeschool groups and preschools and parks and rec groups to get them outdoors learning and having fun and connecting to nature.
So when you say you're working with other schools, does that mean they might come out to visit you at a park and it's like a field trip in a way?
Possibly. Otherwise, I'm coming on site. So I've gone to a couple of preschools and done programs with them in their own little nature area. in the back. So I've gone to their places on site, and I've worked with them to do programs and meet different learning standards as young as like 2. And then I'm also now working with like Parks and Rec groups. So I'll actually be going to their city, local, county parks, and we have a program scheduled, and we'll have people registering, and I'll do a program.
So awesome. I remember when I was a preschool teacher in the Osseo School District, I brought my kids on a field trip to the Coon Rapids Dam, and a naturalist met us out there, and it totally reminds me of like what you're doing. And the families just loved it, because these families, like, that Coon Rapids Dam was basically their backyard, and they had never been there before. This was their first time coming out there. So one thing that really caught my eye on your website was like making it accessible and affordable to everyone. And like when I came to the Coon Rapids Dam with them, we were like, yeah, this is free. You guys can come here every day and just use this space. So can you talk a little bit more about how you are going to make it accessible and affordable to all?
Yeah. So there's a lot of, unfortunately, traditionally different groups of people, especially in the U.S., that have not had the exact same access to nature, whether it's because they were discriminated against because of their skin color, maybe they were immigrants and they couldn't speak the language. There's also been traditionally discrimination against women being in the outdoors, and also the LGBTQIA community. So I'm working on trying to find ways of making people feel more comfortable outdoors is one of the first things, but then also showing them that, like, hey, there's something for everyone out here. Even if you aren't super into like bugs and nature and stuff, you can come out and you can do photography, or you can come out and do mindfulness and mental health type activities. The other cool thing about accessibility is a lot of people realize that there are a lot of these parks that are free, but they don't realize that a lot of the nature centers actually offer a lot of free resources. Like, in addition to classes, a lot of them have like exploration kits. Like, if you go up there, you don't have to like pay money. You can just leave your ID and check out a fishing pole and kit, and all you have to do is go get the bait. And it's like there's resources like this that people need to be aware of, that they exist. And then where there are gaps, I'm going to be giving programming that's affordable and accessible so that people can do just that. If the park doesn't offer enough fishing poles, I might do a fishing program with my own set, or birding, or whatever it may be.
I love that kit idea. That reminded me of, I know the Anoka County Libraries give a free kit out with like a binocular set and like a little geocaching unit set.
Exactly. There's so many of these kits around here, and people just don't realize they're out there. So I've been compiling a list of like recommendations for like, this is a great park for dogs, and this is why. It has water, it doesn't have water. Here's a park that has a lot of like outdoor nature play spaces, because kids, while it's fun to go hiking, they really want to be climbing on trees and digging, and not all parks are okay with that happening everywhere in the park. They have like a specific space, and so if parents know ahead of time, like, hey, this park has a nature play area, they can build shelters, they can dig, or you can check out a fire pit and teach your kids how to build fire. Like, having those resources available, I think, is going to be very helpful with getting more people outdoors.
Absolutely. And that like totally reminds me of what you were writing in your newsletter today, was about how like being outdoors for children just is going to reduce their anxiety and their stress and their depression. And I know I see that because like at our preschool, we go outside every single day with the kids for at least a half hour. Like, that's just a standard thing.
Yeah.
Like, no matter the weather, pretty much, unless it's like pouring rain and lightning. But
Unsafe.
Yes, like we get out there every day, and I do see a huge difference when we go back in the classroom. And I know you were talking about like the behaviors in your newsletter and how you don't see a lot of them when you're outside. So can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So one of my favorite things about going outdoors with kids is, especially when it's a school group, a lot of times ahead of time we'll have, maybe it's a summer camp too though, we'll have the parents or the teachers saying, just so you know, little Jimmy sometimes struggles with listening to directions or sitting still or following rules. And they're being a good parent. They're advocating for their kid. They're letting us know just so that we are aware ahead of time so that we can be a better teacher for them. But I get little Jimmy out in the woods, and I would say more often than not, they're just about the same as every other kid out there. Like, there is scientific research to it that shows that the environment and being out in natural spaces can help reduce all these different things that you were talking about with stress and anxiety and depression. But what's really cool is, in addition to that, is it does kind of sometimes seem like it's magical. Like, all of a sudden, he's just as active and good at listening as the other kids and running around, or maybe there's a little bit, but it's not enough that you're going to notice it because all the kids are having fun.
I also noticed that Outdoor Classroom Day is coming up. I actually didn't know what that was. Can you kind of elaborate on what this is?
Yeah, so I didn't know about it until like last year too, when I first discovered it the first time on Twitter, and then I realized I'm like, oh, this is my kind of day, like, and it's international. So it's classrooms around the entire world for that day are getting their kids outdoors, maybe for an hour, maybe for the entire day, and they're getting them out and they're teaching and they're learning and they're meeting standards, or they're getting kids to connect better to the standards that they already were covering in the classroom. And it's so cool because it got started in the UK, I believe it was like 2012, and it's just like spread since then. They have like 13 campaigns in different countries. There's like over 110 different countries. I think right now they're pretty close to something like 2.5 million schools or classes are going to be involved. Last year their record was around 3 million, I believe, so hopefully they'll beat it this year, but if not, next year.
Yeah, and when you're talking about those standards, like, yeah, that's so true. Like, I know when I go outside with preschoolers, like, I'm constantly like observing them and seeing what they are taking with nature. They're counting the leaves, they're counting the rocks, they're comparing things outside. Like, there is so many standards that kids need to meet when they are outside, and
it only gets harder as they get older, for the teachers especially.
So how do we fix that issue?
Yeah, so one of the things, like I said, I worked at a STEM school, and my job was to help the teachers take these standards and find clever ways of teaching them outdoors. So it was things like, we're going to learn about the physics of flight using seeds. We're going to do a seed experiment where we let the seed go in the wind and we can see if we can test the speed of the wind using the seeds as they float from, set distances. Sometimes it worked better than other times. But another thing that I've been working on too, along with the accessible and affordable part of my mission, is a thing called exploration cards. So a lot of different nature centers will have like their own homemade cards and things that they'll use on a trail. Maybe it's something that they use when the kids are getting a little squirrely when they're hiking between locations. But they also use it as an actual activity. So I'm working on sets specifically for like birding, but I also will touch in different pieces for math and English and stuff for the birding in there. Otherwise, I'm working on sets that are completely focused on like math for ages first grade and second grade, since they hit some of the similar standards. So I'm hoping to be rolling those out in the next couple of months here. And what I'm looking at doing is having each of the kits like something really affordable, and then the teacher can just, make multiple copies, use them different ways. Otherwise, I'm hoping to put together just a big, giant set of them.
Yeah, and I think if it's just like an easy thing for a teacher to grab, then it's just something that they don't need to think of.
Yep.
Like, it's not like we need to look this up in our textbook, in our teaching handbook guide. It's just something simple that they can grab on their way out the door with the kids, and it's very easily accessible.
Yeah, that is really the big thing, is the less complicated you can make these activities. It doesn't matter what age group it is. The less complicated the activity, the easier it is for you as the adult to explain it to the kid, and the easier they'll have a chance of connecting with it. Especially if you have the multiple learning styles of like, here, we're going to talk about it, here, I'm going to show you it, here, you're going to do it. So that's 3 different learning styles all with one activity, and you have a better chance of the kids remembering it and being able to apply it in the future.
Exactly, and apply it back at home, because I love that part of your whole goal is to make it affordable to any families as well. There was one thing I saw on your website too, where you had these bird feeder made out of toilet paper roll.
Yeah.
That's such a simple thing. Everyone has toilet paper rolls. That's very accessible, and it's just a super easy thing to make.
Yeah, exactly. So I do try and put activities up like that to make it easier. So I have a program coming up recently that's with Apple Valley Parks and Rec, and it's going to be like a snow steam day, and we're going to go over different activities that the parents can then go ahead and do at home again with their preschoolers. So maybe we'll be building windsocks, or we'll be building precipitation gauges, but then they can go ahead and use them at home or make more of them again next year.
I love that. Something that, so easy again.
I have one with Apple Valley, and I have one with Lakeville coming up.
Okay.
And Lakeville, I'll be going over different activities that will help them keep the kids outdoors all winter long.
Okay, so does that fall under your 2 categories of nature tours and hikes then, when you're talking about these things that are happening at the Apple Valley?
Kind of. So I have listed on my website nature tours and then outdoor classes I'll do. And what's nice about these is I can partner with an outside group like a park, so that I can use their space and we can get more of their residents involved in doing this activity. But I also have a couple contracts with some of the local state parks where I can come and bring in an outside group. I just have to get their correct permits ahead of time and let them know that we're coming. And so that means I can partner with a homeschool group. I can partner with Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, or whoever it is who's interested in hiring us for something.
So if anyone is interested in hiring you for something, do they just kind of reach out to you and you start collaborating with them?
Yeah. So if you want to hire something that's privately for your own specific group, you reach out to me. I look at the schedule, your schedule. We figure out what's going to work best, how long, how many kids, what standards, or what it is we want to focus on. And I schedule it that way. I'm also right now, hopefully in the next month, going to have my merchant account up on my website. So then I'll be scheduling public hikes and outdoor classes that anyone can sign up for at these different parks.
And does that go along with like the free hike Fridays at all?
Possibly. Right now I'm doing free hike Fridays through Eventbrite, and it's been working pretty well, so I'm probably going to stick with it. Free hike Fridays is its own separate program, so that's me trying to give back and once again stick with that mission of making sure things are affordable and accessible, because not everyone's going to be able to pay for these classes and different things. So I want to make sure I'm offering at least one free hike per month, so that if people want to get outdoors and they just want someone to lead them on a certain subject, they can. So next month is going to be a self-care and reflections hike. So we're going to be focusing on the different activities that you can do for like positivity and self-esteem while you're outdoors. Because since nature has these beneficial properties with helping with anxiety, stress, depression, etc., by doing some of these activities, it actually makes them help a little bit more by doing them outdoors. We're all adults who've struggled with mental health and different things throughout our life. It's completely natural and normal. And I found that over time, me doing a lot of these like journaling, these different activities when I was out on a hike was super beneficial. Like I left feeling really, really good, like even more better than I felt like on a normal hike. And that's just my experience, but I definitely want to give it back to the people of Minnesota with this event in November. So hopefully see you out there.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing event to come to. One thing that I loved so much about your Making It Accessible for Everyone post was that you were such an advocate for putting paved trails into some of our parks. And I loved that so much. It spoke so much to me because when we were at Yellowstone this past summer with my parents who don't have really good knees, the only trails that they can go on were paved trails. So a paved trail in a national park made it very accessible for them. So can you talk a little bit about your blog post? Because that just spoke so much to me.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not to be too controversial. It's more of the idea that, you know, there are so many parks, especially here in Minnesota. We're so blessed to have so many different parks. You got city, county, national, state. I mean, you got wildlife management areas. The idea is that, you know, not every single park needs to have it, but, you know, a lot of these parks that are high use, it'd be kind of nice if it had at least one paved trail. And this is because not everyone who goes out and enjoys nature has the same exact access. You know, having this one paved trail can allow the mom who needs to have the stroller because she has she has triplets and she needs to be able to get them all around through the woods. Having that paved trail will make it easier for her and her kids to get outdoors. The older adults who need walkers or wheelchairs or electric scooters, having one paved trail will allow them to get out and enjoy nature. You know, they don't have to stop enjoying it just because now they have different needs for mobility. And also, there's a lot of people who are new to the outdoors, and having a paved trail can make it a lot more comfortable and easier for them to get outdoors because they don't feel like they're going to get lost, because if they stay on the paved trail, they're going to roughly know where they are, or they can find their way back if they follow it. So those are kind of some of the big reasons why I really do support trying to have at least one paved trail or packed trail, something that people can access if they have different accessibility needs than walking or even hardcore hiking.
Exactly, because yeah, the outdoors is a place for everyone, so let's be inclusive of every type of person.
Yeah. They're called public parks for a reason. It's for the public. So, you know, it's just my thought. I know it can sometimes be a little controversial and rub people the wrong way, but I do feel like with our aging population, with the baby boomers, and I know someday I'm not going to be, you know, Wonder Woman running around and hiking up super steep cliffs and stuff. Like, I'm still going to want to go outdoors. I'm going to want to have one trail that I can still go out and I can enjoy Lebanon Hills, or I can go out, and luckily Fort Snelling does have a couple, so I can still go out and enjoy Fort Snelling State Park. But, you know, it just would be nice so that I can still enjoy getting out and exploring new places, because this new park I go to does happen to have that one paved trail that me and my little old lady walker can enjoy walking down together. Yeah.
Exactly, yes. And then your YouTube channel, I know one of the videos that I liked a lot was the one of you and your fiance talking about climbing trees and how, like, because so many families, I mean, I speak to parents on a daily basis as a teacher, and families and parents can sometimes be a little wary of sending their kids out on trees or even like a big slide for their first time. So I loved that video, just like 10 safety tips. Let's kind of talk about the safety tips and then just talk about your YouTube channel and what you do with that.
Yeah. So I, similar to you, I work in the outdoor field. I had worked in preschools from when I was like 15 through college. So like I saw a lot of the same things. You know, we kind of have this culture now where if you're not a helicopter parent, you're being a bad parent, leaving your kid out in the woods, even if it is just the backyard by themselves. Like, it's kind of gotten to this extreme, and I really feel for the parents who do really want to get their kid outdoors, but they were like, well, but if I do this, and Sammy breaks, the judgment, and Sammy breaks his arm, and, you know, like, so by giving people safety tips, like, look, if you follow these tips, you lessen the risk of getting injured while climbing, even on a tree, you know, making sure you're not going too high off the ground, only your height off the ground. That way you could hang from a branch and put your feet on the ground, roughly speaking. So I really appreciated putting together that type of stuff so that parents and teachers knew that, hey, you can let them climb on trees. We climbed on trees. Like, I remember being a kid and going in the backyard and climbing on trees and, you know, probably doing a lot more risky things than a lot of parents would let their kids do now. Like, we would play with hammers and nails back there unsupervised and build forts and tear them down and build a new fort somewhere else. Like, you know, I loved growing up and being able to do those things, and I want to make sure other people have the same access to that. And so that's actually kind of why the YouTube video started. I was at a place in Illinois working, and I was really missing the STEM school and the work I was doing with helping the teachers meet their standards and get the kids outdoors. So I was like, well, what if I just kind of did it on my own? And I started doing the blog, and then I realized I was doing like research, trying to learn more from other people, and I realized no one was on YouTube making YouTube videos. And I'm like, well, like, I can borrow my dad's camera and I'll go out and I'll try it out myself. And I really actually kind of enjoyed doing it and making these videos that allowed people to get outdoors and develop these skills, whether it was tracking or maybe it was learning how to use binoculars or these different activities that, like you were saying,
I loved the one too about where you talked about the footprints outside, like naming different animal footprints.
Yeah.
They're just so informative, and you make it so easy to watch and just like so clear on the videos. It's just a very simple thing for anyone to follow along.
Yeah. Well, it is a skill. It is something that I've developed and I learned. Like, tracking was one of the first things that really got me outdoors regularly in the winter as a kid. I mean, I was like any other kid. I loved sledding, I loved skiing and ice skating, but like I didn't do a whole lot of hiking in the winter as opposed to like the spring, the summer, and the fall. And then when I started realizing I could find animal prints, and then I found the very first print from a bird of prey coming down and snatching a rabbit or a squirrel or something, and seeing those wingtips on the snow, it was just the coolest thing ever. And realizing that the snow and even mud shares a story when animals leave their prints behind, and that you could follow it. I mean, that was by far the most exciting part ever, was realizing that I could age prints and I could see how new a print was, like if it was about an hour old because of mud and the sun drying and such, and being able to follow it and actually see the deer. I mean, the hands down the best one I ever had was the time I got to see wolves in the wild. We were up visiting a family friend of my parents up in like northern Minnesota, and I went for a hike from their cabin, doing my normal thing, tracking. I was probably about like 15, 16, and I'm hiking along, and it's probably like some old like deer hunting trail or deer trail, and I start noticing canine footprints. And then I realized they're fresh, and there were no human footprints whatsoever, other than the ones behind me. And I was like, oh my gosh, either it's a wild dog or maybe it's a wolf. It looks like a wolf. It's oval shaped. It has the claws in the right spot, and there's a few of them. And so I followed it, but I got to see 3 wolves running across a field, you know, in northern Minnesota, and they were in the wild, and they were really small, you know, running across the field. I didn't try and get like too close or anything, but I was like, I gotta see wild wolves, and it was like
magical.
Oh, it was so cool. I mean, like, I understand everything plays a role in the ecosystem, and I do believe in like wolf management and stuff like that, but like, it was so incredibly cool to realize, like, I just tracked wolves for a couple hours, and I got to see the wolves run across the field. I wasn't able to get a picture with my camera, is the sad part, because I was too busy, like, oh my god, there's wolves over there, and the camera's down here, and no photos are being taken.
That's so magical. So with bringing kids out on nature hikes and showing them animals and teaching them how to track, have you ever like brought children out to like follow a raccoon or a chipmunk or anything? And how do you safely do that with a group of children?
Yeah. So we have attempted it before, but the thing about hiking with a large group of children is it's usually pretty noisy, even if they are trying to be quiet. I think the best we've
When
ever...
you say large, what is like your typical number?
I mean, ideally for a naturalist being outdoors, you'd want a group somewhere probably between like 12 or 15 at the biggest. But I've definitely hiked with groups that were probably closer to like 20 children. But there were other adults with us, and too, making sure we were sticking to the safety ratios. Even when they're doing their very best, and I know they're doing their best, it's a lot of feet. There's a lot of leaves. There's a lot of sticks. Plus, we have odor we give off, and we're approaching from the wrong side, so be it. But I think the most we've ever seen is probably like deer, or maybe squirrels and rabbits. I know I did once track a possum with a coworker, and that was pretty cool, because little possum in the snow, their poor little feet, like, trying to make their way. They're pretty slow moving. We were able to find them. And then we just kind of watched, and we're like, kind of feel bad for you, but we're not going to, like, pick you up or anything, because you're a wild animal.
Yeah.
Getting into that safety distance rule. So when you're hiking with kids and you're doing tracking, especially if it's an animal that could cause you harm, this includes deer, because deer can kick, and they got antlers and pretty sharp, strong hooves on strong legs, is the thumb rule. So you hold your hand straight out, you put the thumb in the middle, and you kind of close one eye, and if the animal is bigger than your thumb can't cover up the animal, you're technically too close. And this is to make sure if it's a bigger animal like a bear, you're farther away. If it's something smaller like a bobcat, you're still a good distance away. Like, it really is a really easy rule to use, and I definitely was following that rule. Happily, I can say when I was tracking the wolves, they were definitely smaller than my thumb across the field. So,
Okay, the thumb rule. So now kids can safely go out and do that, and I can feel more confident now that I know the thumb rule.
yeah.
Can you kind of talk about your YouTube channel? I know there's a ton of free resources you have out there on your YouTube channel, and how do people find your YouTube channel, and how often do you release videos?
Yeah. So the YouTube channel is called EcoElsa as well. It's one word. I think I'm going to be releasing video number 50 this week. So I've been doing it for about 2 years here, on and off again, releasing different videos. I have a wide variety. In the beginning, I really focused on giving teachers the skills to get outdoors with their kids and parents. And then I started moving more into here's how you use binoculars, and here's how you track, and here's like some more advanced techniques for tracking, and trying all these different things so that you can be a well-rounded person when it comes to going outdoors and teaching outdoors and getting your kids outdoors.
I love that. And do you find that a lot of teachers and parents are following that and like using your resources?
Yeah, I've been getting some comments, occasionally questions and emails from people asking about certain things, maybe some ideas I have. Usually a lot of it's like activities and how do you put together the activities in a good order, stuff like that. So I'm hopefully going to be releasing a video about that soon. Also, it's looking for more resources for like, what can I do outdoors to like teach about this? And I'm working on putting together my own stuff, like I said, with the exploration cards and stuff and worksheets eventually. But I also usually direct people to things like Outdoor Classroom, because they put out a lot of great resources for free. But there's also groups like Project Wild, Project Wet, Project Learning Tree, Beatles Project. A lot of them put out a ton of free resources as well. Some of them do include, if you want to get their curriculum, you have to take one of their paid classes. And I've done the training for Project Wild before and Project Wild Aquatic. And it was a really great training even for me as a naturalist, because we went over how to use their curriculum, what's included in their curriculum. And it just gave me like tons and tons of more activities. Some of them were familiar even. There were things that I had played as a kid and I didn't realize it was a Project Wild game, like camouflage or oh dear. You do have to pay to take the class, but then you get the curriculum as part of the class usually, or you just have to pay a little bit more for it. So I do recommend it. It is really interesting, especially I think if I didn't have the natural resource background I do have, it would be really beneficial, because they do give you that rundown of here's how you take kids outdoors, and it's a great training.
And is that something that anyone can go take?
I believe so. It depends on your state. So how Project Wild works is it is a national group organization, and they have a coordinator for each state. Usually it's someone like involved with their local like Department of Natural Resources or something like that. And you'd work with a coordinator to see when there's a class to sign up for, or maybe they have it posted on a certain website. I know for Minnesota, I believe it's Project Learning Tree and Project Wild, they do it on the Minnesota DNR webpage under education, and then they have the coordinator's name and contact listed, so you can reach out to them.
What a cool resource. There's just so much out there. And just like hearing you talk just makes me so inspired to go bring my class of preschoolers outside all day long tomorrow.
Good luck. It's going to be cold, I think.
Well, we talked about getting raincoats and rain boots for every single child in the preschool room. How cool would that be?
It'd be a lot of work, but it would be very much worth it, especially if you can get that variety of sizes. I know, it's hard. One thing I did like the STEM school I worked at is what they would do is if there was anything lost and found end of the year, if it was something they could use, they would wash it and they divvy it out to the teachers so that, oh, so-and-so forgot gloves. You get to use the classroom gloves that we have in the bin.
Oh, yep. We have that all the time. Yep. You need those because if you're going outside, you got to be prepared. And obviously you know that with children. That's what you do.
They forget everything. And even if they bring
Absolutely.
it, they forget it out there. I remember once doing a night hike and games at a facility I worked at, and a kid lost their white hat in the snow at night. And somehow one of the teachers, one of our staff, actually found it while they were out there walking that night. And I was like, well, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
that you didn't have to wait until like springtime to find it.
oh my gosh, like if it had snowed that night, they would have been all over. That white hat would have been gone.
So, you have the YouTube channel, which is EcoElsa. How else can people reach out to you or get in contact with you and just find out more information about all your resources?
Yeah, I know, there's a lot. So the very big one to go to, it's like the focal point for everything, is the website, and it's just www.ecoelsa.com. So ecoelsa.com, you can search it in Google or whatever it is you use. And then on that website, I have links to a lot of my other sites, but I'm also on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Pinterest, and I'm on LinkedIn now too.
So, with that said, do you have any last words that you want to say to our listeners? Any small tidbits of information about getting outside for those hesitant parents or families?
Getting outdoors is flexible. There's something for everyone outdoors. I really, truly, honestly believe in that. My mom is an artist, and she used to say there's a medium for everyone, whether it's photography or clay or paint or whatnot. And I really, truly want to take her words and be like, there is something outdoors for everyone. If you want to go out and just take photos for Instagram on your beautiful hike out in the fall leaves, go for it. Get outdoors, all the better. We want you out there enjoying it. Enjoy it the way you want. Just please do not be a trail trasher. Just make sure you're taking care of the environment and being respectful that it is a public place that you're sharing with other people and with the wildlife that calls it home. In addition to that, I want to say the Hiking Through Life people, Andy and Sarah, you guys are so awesome. I'm really excited to be on here, and hopefully we can collaborate on some stuff in the future. So make sure to check out more of their stuff on their website too.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you on today, EcoElsa.
Yeah, thank you.
I was so happy that we met up with EcoElsa. Elsa's drive and passion to make getting outdoors more accessible for everyone is really contagious, and after meeting with her, it just made me, like I said, want to bring my group of kids outside.
If you are just looking to get into the outdoors, or you're looking at various different ways to engage your kids in the outdoors, go over to EcoElsa.com and look at all of the resources she's putting together out there. Her YouTube channel, all of the programs that she's providing, the hikes that she's looking to get up in the future, the free hike Fridays.
Yeah, I just think she's doing so many wonderful things for the outdoor community and those that aren't yet in the outdoor community but want to get into that outdoor community. EcoElsa is a really good resource for people to reach out to and follow. So we're super excited that we connected with her, and we definitely plan on working with her in the future. Much like going on a new trail or hike for the first time, creating your own podcast can be daunting and scary. But we at Hiking Through Life have found that Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. And the best part is that it's free, and it's all right at your fingertips from your phone or computer. The creation tools on Anchor allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds just as you want it. And then they'll distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard everywhere like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more areas where podcasts can be heard. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. If you're ready to start creating your path of podcasting today, go ahead and download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. You've been listening to the Hiking Through Life podcast. Peace, love, and hike through life.